All right, so we have this working as far as giving our own custom message, but there's a lot of things that we did in that messages resource file, and I kind of want to break it down, kind of decipher it, and figure out exactly what those different components were, and also how you could use this on your own project if you had a totally different object model and a totally different form set. So let's go ahead and what we'll do is we'll actually add some logging or debug messages here in our customer controller. So in our customer controller, I'm going to actually inspect the binding result object, because this object has a wealth of information, a lot of good data that we can use to kind of decipher what's going on during the validation process. So what I'll do is I'll simply add a system out print line, and I'll print out the binding result. So I'll say binding result, and then the binding result. And again, the binding result's a parameter that's being passed into this method when we process the form. And then also, just to kind of help out with showing you this stuff on the video, I'm going to add some line breaks or some line spaces or new lines, just to kind of move things up on the console window. But this is not really required. Line 48 is kind of just for me to help you show stuff on the video. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. And let's go back and get it up and running. And we can check out some of our logs here in the console window. So just go to the customer form here. And I'll just enter some data here for Smith. I'll enter some bad data here for free passes. And then I'll go ahead and hit on the submit button. Okay, great. So now we should have some good data in our console window. So let me go ahead and double click console, bring it up. Okay, good stuff. Really good stuff. See, these last two lines here are very important for us. All right, so this line here, the binding result, basically says, hey, this binding result had one error. Okay, and we know about that, right? It's on free passes, of course. And the second line will actually give you more details as far as where it occurred. So it'll say that, hey, there was a field error on object customer. And that's the actual Spring MVC attribute name. And then on field free passes of that customer object. Okay, cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then it says the rejected value. So whatever the data that the user entered. So you can grab that if you wanted to, I don't know, play around with that or do something with it. But here comes the really good part. These are all of the error codes that Spring MVC will use when it displays a custom message. So to go out and look for these. So they have one of their error codes. It's type mismatch customer free passes. So what we'll do is we're simply overriding their default error code, and we're simply providing our own custom message. So here in the config file, we say, hey, for that type mismatch customer.freepasses, use our custom message. And that's how that piece works out there. And then they also have other error codes here. You could simply have a type mismatch on any free passes not related to customer, any field that has free passes, or you could have a type mismatch on any field that has integer, or you could have just a more generic type mismatch. So basically it goes from very specific starting at the left to very generic all the way over to the right. But we wanted to make use of that first one there because we wanted to be specific only for that given specific field. So you can use this same approach on your own project. You simply just do a print line on the binding result, and that'll give you all the codes that Spring's using or looking for, and you can simply override it accordingly. So just a nice little debugging trick there for you, where you can override the error code and give your own custom message. So you can apply the same technique on your own project. And then there you go. So you have it up and running. I do the print line on binding result. Just a real simple one-liner there. You can inspect the console logs and then figure out which error codes that you need. You simply find those codes, drop them into your messages.properties file, and run it in your application, and booyah, your own custom error message. So there you go. Alrighty, good stuff. I'll see you in the next video.